comes to being the leader of a ninja village, it isn't always about being the most powerful shinobi or the wisest person in the room. It's also about having people who you can keep around you as your advisor. In fact, having a solid advisor is something that arguably could make or break a Hokage's tenure in power. For example, for everything that Hiruzen had accomplished, imagine what could have happened if Danzo had acted in good faith. On the other hand, if Minato never died and Hiruzen was his advisor, imagine the good that could have been accomplished. In the case of Naruto's Hokage, Shikamaru Nara serves both as Naruto's main advisor as well as one of the two 8th Hokage candidates, with the other one being Sakura Uchiha. He also serves as the support for Naruto when entering into negotiations with the other Kage in an effort to protect Naruto from his own naive nature, and it's for a really good reason. The other 4 Kage were groomed for far longer than Naruto for the position when they served on the Shinobi Union, and in the case of Gaara has been the Kage for almost 2 decades now. Naruto has the least amount of experience out of all the Kage, but he makes up for it by being the physically strongest and by being a glue that seems to bring the Kage together. However, as we're about to discuss in today's edition of Shikamaru Shinden, there was a time when Shikamaru had to step in to save Naruto during his time as Hokage. The information is given to us in the Naruto light novel, Shikamaru Shinden, Mourning Clouds. The events of this novel are set all over the Naruto timeline, starting in the immediate aftermath of the versus Momoshiki arc and ending just after the Mujina Bandits arc. This scene we're going to cover today takes place just after the versus Momoshiki arc, when the 5 Kage assemble in the aftermath of Momoshiki's invasion of Konoha, which saw Momoshiki attack the Chunin exams, kidnap Naruto, and the 5 Kage ultimately had to band together to fight off Momoshiki and Kinshiki. Previously, earlier in the Gokage summit, Naruto bowed his head humbly to the other Kages as he apologized for breaking the treaty between the ninja nations by developing ninja tech. However, the current Tsuchikage wanted nothing to do with it and launched into an attack on Naruto, ripping him to shreds in front of the other Kage, pointing out that the very existence of ninja tech was troubling because it meant that Konoha could turn ordinary Genin into ninja-wielding Kekkei Genkai and other high-level ninjutsu that Naruto could seal into the scrolls. Seeing Naruto stutter and stammer his way through a defense, bumbling all over the place largely because of his inexperience in political matters and the sense of betrayal that Naruto felt with being blindsided, Shikamaru steps in to defend Naruto in a way that's sure to make some of you guys question who is really the one that has Naruto's back more between Sasuke and Shikamaru. With the scene finally being set, it's here I'm gonna begin quoting. "You don't mind if I say something?" Shikamaru interrupted. Raising a hand, he looked at the 5 Kages. Kurotsuki's eyes glittered back as she stared at him. He had clearly jumped in at the very moment when she prepared to strike a critical blow. "I'm not gonna stand here and let you pin him down," Shikamaru thought. "Developing ninja tools is something that every village does," Shikamaru said. "And it's also perfectly natural for people to try and make progress, to move forward every day. If we're planning some evil use for the technology as the Tsuchikage is implying, then yes, it would be indeed extremely dangerous, but it can be used for peaceful purposes. First of all, it's no easy feat to seal a powerful jutsu into one of these scrolls, and if you're worried the young ones will stop training because of the ninja tool, well, that's something else altogether. But don't you think it's a pretty big leap to simply assume that it'll be used for military purposes?" Shikamaru said. "Shikamaru's right here. We're talking about a child's toy. It can't compete with real jutsu." Darui smiled as he looked over at Shikamaru. He might have been a ninja from another village, but he was a comrade, and the two of them had spent many long years talking passionately about the future of ninja. The bond Shikamaru felt with him was no different than if they had been from the same village. "Is it really okay though?" Chojuro said, propping his elbows up on the table and covering the lower half of his face with his clasped hands. "What are you trying to say?" Gaara asked. "What if one country gets the jump on the others while we're all being chummy?" Chojuro continued, looking at the Kazekage out the corner of his eye. "And which country happens to be the closest to getting a hold of such power that none of the others would have a chance against them?" Chojuro asked. "Hey, what exactly are you getting at, Chojuro?" Naruto asked, perplexed, sweat beading on his forehead. Chojuro had always taken a friendly position when it came to Konoha. This was the first time he'd ever agreed to anything like what Kurosuke was saying now, but Shikamaru could see what was behind the shift. The Mist Village had remarkably very little in the way of mineral resources essential for ninja. Not only the iron and copper that they used for a variety of things, but also the saltpeter needed for gunpowder. Soon after the 5 great nations established friendly relations, economic treaties were established that gave the Mist Village access to the Stone Village's minerals in exchange for quality water resources. Kurosuke had to have been making her move now in some kind of secret agreement with Chojuro. It was easy for Shikamaru to accept the other ninja's change of heart when he thought about it like this. Countries couldn't run on feelings alone after all. Shikamaru had also noticed a deep furrow carved into the Mizukage's brow, which in addition to attempting to shroud the rest of his face with his hands, revealed his internal conflict. What exactly is going on with you two? I told you before. I'll make sure to tell you right away if anything comes up. Trust me, things like this won't happen again. Naruto pleaded as he looked back and forth between the two Kages. Konoha's military might was by far the greatest of the 5 hidden villages. The negotiations might go a little more smoothly if they acknowledged that power, but Naruto would never concede to something like that. He always treated everyone as an equal and despised the idea of using force to make others yield. It was precisely because of this humble trait that Shikamaru had absolute faith in Naruto. However, this same trait was what also made Naruto a bit unreliable at times like this. End quote. Man, that last line got a sting for Naruto fanboys, but there is some truth to it, but there is something to be said about walking quietly but carrying a big stick at the same time. So the first thing I gotta say here is that Detective Shikamaru, or Batman Shikamaru, is something that I absolutely love here. So he's picked up on the small body language cues of Chojuro, like the way that his eyebrows are creased and the position of his hands to try and hide his face, almost like he's hiding in shame because of what he's being forced to do. He's put the pieces together, that the Mist and the Stone Village are in an agreement here, and they enter into the summit on the same page to attack Naruto, but Chojuro is clearly heavily conflicted here. As previously mentioned in Shikamaru's dialogue, Konoha and the Mist Village have been on mostly good terms, but we know from the Hidden Mist field trip arc that things haven't always been pleasant between the two in this new era. The true reason for Shino and Anko visiting the village was also to negotiate the terms of the treaty between the two lands, where it was noted that the feudal lords of each country were at the time at odds, and if they were ordered to, both villages would have to go to war with one another. Another thing of importance is that Shikamaru spent years on the Shinobi Union with the other Kages back when Kakashi spearheaded the project that saw the 5 ninja villages put their future Kage candidates on a board where they could go over intelligence before it was submitted to the Kages, and they would work together to assign missions that were shared between the ninja villages. Shikamaru was Konoha's only Kage candidate on that board at the time because Naruto was still being groomed, but he was there helping build a bridge to the future that Boruto's generation currently enjoys during this time of peace. He knows the other Kages much better than Naruto because of how closely he's worked alongside of them. Shikamaru saw Naruto struggling to defend himself and made it a point to put into words what Naruto couldn't when placed right there on the spot. Shikamaru points out that while ninja tech could be used for combat, they didn't develop ninja tech for that purpose, and it shouldn't be viewed any differently than a ninja village trying to make its own special type of weapons. However, Shikamaru does know that that is a bit of a stretch, that the Tsuchikage is right that they could be dangerous if they perfected using ninjutsu, which is why Shikamaru gambled and said that it is very difficult to seal high-level ninjutsu into those scrolls, and Shikamaru's gamble worked because Darui does say that a ninja tech will never surpass actual ninjutsu. It's also important for Shikamaru to step in here and protect Naruto because Naruto is walking into a political trap and didn't even realize it. 2 of the Kages were attempting to use Konoha's violation of the treaty as a way to gain more leverage, which isn't too crazy when you think of it from a political standpoint. In the real world, when a country violates treaties, there's typically sanctions that are put in place as punishment. However, it's also a testament to what Shikamaru alluded to, that Konoha is unrivaled in military might. Naruto doesn't truly realize how many assets he has for actual war potential. So just in the reserves, Naruto has Orochimaru, Kabuto, and Sasuke. Orochimaru and Sasuke have mastery over all 5 changes in chakra nature, and Sasuke has this thing called the Rinnegan, which last I checked is pretty overpowered, and he also has the Sharingan, which is also really overpowered. Now, Kabuto also has Sage Mode and Edo Tensei. Orochimaru, after the war, during the anime adaptation of the Sasuke Shinden Sunrise novel, flat out stated that the true reason that Konoha let them out of prison is that sooner or later dark days would return and they would be needed to defend Konoha's best interests. They were monsters that could only be used during that time. They also have 2 medical experts in Tsunade, a medical legend, and Shizune, who is Tsunade's other apprentice. They also have Sakura, who is acknowledged as being the best medical ninja alive and also has quite a bit of raw power herself. Then they also have Rock Lee, who is stated in the Boruto anime to be a master of the 8 inner gates. Rock Lee also leads the Suicide Corps, which was a unit that was assembled under Kakashi's Hokage with a small group of ninja who could use the inner gates, which we saw Rock Lee lead during the events of Naruto the Last when they broke apart the meteor. Konoha, just off those assets alone, has enough theoretically to destroy an entire nation. The idea of ninja tech makes them too much to handle, which is why the Tsuchikage felt room for concern. However, Shikamaru knew that if Naruto continued to speak, his naive and trusting nature might very well be used against him and could put Konoha in a disadvantage in the future. And with 2 of the Kages clearly working together, it would clearly mean bad news for Konoha. However, that's going to be it for today's installment of Shikamaru Shinden Mourning Clouds. My question to you guys is, between Sasuke and Shikamaru, who is truly Naruto's right-hand man as Hokage? Is it the Shadow Hokage Sasuke, or is it the Hokage's brain as Shikamaru? Let me know down in the comment section below, but as always, guys, if you like anything I had to say, don't forget to comment, rate, subscribe, and share. Thank you so much for watching to the end. Have an awesome day, guys.